Almost knocked the damn camera over. Welcome to Outlaw Edge Blade Works. I'm all dirty and nasty right now, but it's like 3 in the morning. Out here working on my car. And I figured I'd do one of my videos real quick. I've been thinking a lot of the questions you guys sent in, and this is for the questions and answers video that I did. There were some questions you guys wanted me to ask or answer. And AK Driller, I got your orange and water. Where you been, man? Come on. I've been sitting here for hours. Hey, anyways, thanks for all the support on my YouTube channel too. It really means a lot, you know. Got a real bad glare going on right here, huh? But anyways, so I'm gonna start asking or answering some of the questions that came in on the questions and answers video a while back. And the first one was from I think I'm doing these in order. I think so. But anyways, the first one was from Rick Harris, and it was what is your most favorite classic muscle car from the years 1967 to 1982? I would have to say the 67 Camaro. I'm not a big muscle car guy. I kind of can't stand them, to be honest. And I seen your car, you got that video you did, that was pretty cool. That's kind of a rare car, isn't it? But anyways, I never have been into muscle cars, and I kind of got burned out on the muscle car era when we used to drag race. And all the muscle cars at the drag strip, that's all you'd see all day long. And I kind of just got burned out on them. But to make a long story short, the 67 Camaro would have to be my favorite. And when I was in grade school, my neighbors, the Brawleys, they had a 67 Camaro, and it was called, well, they had a truck and a car, and the truck was called the Sword, and then the car was called the Sorcerer, and this was a show car, and it had a blown big block Chevy in it, running nitrous and wheelie bars and big old racing slicks, and he drove this thing on the street back and forth to school. And this car was badass. And if I had a 67 Camaro, it'd be just like something like that, where, you know, I can get out there and push 1,800 horsepower or something rolling down the street, but I'd get in all kinds of trouble. I'd be in jail. But it'd have to be the 67 Camaro. Thanks, Rick. The next question was from Neil Wolf. And this one, this guy cracks me up. He asked some questions, and one of them you guys will get a kick out of. So the first question was, how long have you been into metal fabrication, and what got you into it? When I was growing up, I wouldn't say we were poor, but we didn't have a bunch of money. And one of the things was, you know, my mom would hand me money without my dad knowing it, but my dad would be like, you want something, you got to work your ass off for it. I'm not going to give it to you. So the first thing I did is I started learning how to work on the ranch and stuff like that, feeding the animals. And, you know, as I was growing up, and, you know, I wanted a dirt bike, I wanted a go-kart, I wanted, you know, all these kind of toys as a kid. And my dad was like, well, you got to build one. You can't just go out and buy one, you know, or you can save your allowance and work your ass off all summer long and make it through winter. And then the next summer you'll have enough money to, you know, get a dirt bike or a go-kart or whatever. And I wouldn't say we were poor, but not wealthy, but, you know, having to learn all that kind of stuff. That's how I got into metal fabrication. I'd be watching my dad out there messing around out in the garage, welding and cutting and grinding, and I always was like, wow, that's kind of cool, you know, taking two pieces of metal and welding them together. And my dad was really big on, and so am I, my dad was really big on your hands. He was like, if you're gonna do stuff, use your hands and use this right here. Use your head and your hands. Make something with it. Do something with your life. Go out there and, you know, learn some skills, because the more you learn, the more you're worth. So living on that ranch, I started doing welding, and pretty soon, you know, because my dad taught me how to weld, and then pretty soon it was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I like old cars, you know, at the car shows and stuff, and I'd be talking to these old guys, Bill Hines, Gene Winfield, Ed Roth, who else, Gator, Frank Livingston, and I started getting to be friends with these guys. And as I grew up, and they were all into metal fabrication and metal shaping and forming metal and whatever. And they built custom cars. And some of these cars were the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And Gene Winfield's still one of my favorite. He's still alive, and he still builds cars. And I think he's 89 years old. Yeah, I think he's 89 years old right now. and the guy is still building custom cars, and he's down south in Palm Springs, which is one of the areas that I was raised in when I was younger. Then I moved up north to Northern California. But just watching those guys take their hands and build something beautiful like that, chopping the tops on a car and doing, suicide doors and all that kind of crazy stuff, and being able to do it with a torch and a welder and a grinder and, a box of tools. I thought that was just fascinating. So that's how I got into metal fabrication, kind of by necessity. But then, I started learning, and I'm all self-taught. I've never, other than my dad trying to show me, what he could do, he would teach me as much as he could. It's kind of a lost art what I learned, and a lot of the stuff, you don't see people doing this kind of stuff anymore, and it's a true lost art. You tell people, I took the English wheel and I did whatever. I made a panel in my garage, and people are like, "A what? What the hell's an English wheel?" Everybody's on the internet. Everybody's on their cell phones. Everybody's so damn busy anymore, and they're always doing stuff, and it's that lost art goes away. So, anyways, I don't want to keep dragging on or whatever, but metal fabrication, that's how I got into it. It was necessity, learning by going out and living on a ranch and having to fix stuff, broken tractors and broken trucks and flatbeds and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool. And my dad, bless his heart, he taught me everything he could. And I went and taught my kids the same thing, and I have one of my sons that, his name's Johnny Suede. And Johnny Suede is one of the best metal fabricators I've ever seen in my life. He was actually on TV with Jimmy Shine from SoCal Customs. He was, hanging out with the guys from the magazine, Gearhead Magazine, Mike Labelli. And he got to do a bunch of stuff at one of the car shows with Alex Gambino from Alex Gambino Customs. And he's met Gene Winfield and Bill Hines and all those guys. And it's neat because I'm watching him grow up kind of the same way I was, and he took what I learned and he made it just boom. He learned a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm so proud of him. So proud of all my kids, but Johnny Suede, I'm telling you, he's one of the best fabricators I've ever seen in my life. And I know he's going to go big, go places in his life, and that means a lot to me. He's a good kid. But let's see. The next question was from Neil Wolf. Was knife making just a logical progression to the metal fabrication, or because of the bushcrafting? I was taught bushcrafting and survival skills from my grandpa. He didn't teach me. He just kind of showed me whittling, and then pretty soon I'd see him do stuff out in the woods that was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Using an axe, chopping a tree down, and I kind of was like always fascinated with the woods and the smells of it, and using a chainsaw and all that kind of stuff. And then my uncle Victor was in and I think he just passed away. I'm not sure yet, but I got to ask my mom. I know he had real bad cancer, and my uncle Victor was in the military, and he was in like the special forces or whatever, and he taught me some amazing survival skills. When I was growing up, I used to hang around with him all the time, and he was just awesome. I mean, we'd be in the woods, and he'd teach me some stuff that I'd never seen before. Hand drill, or a bow drill and all that kind of stuff to make fire and everything, and wild edibles, and boiling water to drink the water, and different ways of doing it with rocks, and just stuff that you see is really came out of the woodwork nowadays. But as far as the knives, I've always been fascinated with knives. I've always carried one since I was a little kid. I've always had a little jackknife in my pocket. I've always had a knife on me no matter what. And that was something that was instilled in my head with my Uncle Victor. He was like, if you're going to be out in the woods, you better have a knife, because that'll save your life. Having one knife will save your life. You can do this and this and this and this with a knife. And, if you don't have a knife, you can still do a couple things, but it's going to be a little bit harder. So I started collecting knives a little bit. And then pretty soon I was like, I kind of don't like some of the designs, and I want to make my own designs, but I don't know how to make them. Well, being that I knew how to weld and fabricate and all that kind of stuff, I was like, well, I'm going to build a forge. I built a forge, and it just kind of blew up from there. And I've made some beautiful custom knives. Nothing like, my buddies that make knives or whatever, they're world famous knife builders and whatever. But I've had a chance to build some awesome knives, and I still have some of those today. And they've been some excellent bushcrafting knives. They're some of the sharpest ones I've ever owned, and they hold a real good edge and everything. And that's honestly is it's mostly the bushcrafting and the fabrication of metal kind of went together, and that's how I started doing knives. And then I got into leather work, and I just like to do stuff with my hands. I'm a tinker, and if I can learn a skill, I don't care if it's plumbing, I don't care if it's, you know, building a house, concrete, whatever, I can do it all. And I try to do it really well. I don't like to do stuff half-assed. And my son's the same way. I mean, you know, he can do anything. Anyways, Johnny Suede, I know you're watching. I want to say hi. I love you, buddy. And so the next question was from Neil Wolf, was how many times a week do you have to restrain yourself from choking Michael? You guys all know Michael from back in Nam Survival. He should be here tonight, but it's like 3 in the morning, so he had to be home because he's got school in the morning. Or no, he'll be here tomorrow actually making knives with me. Go figure. And I'm gonna be working on my car and maybe making some knives and all that kind of stuff tomorrow. We'll do some videos and whatever. But how many times a week do I have to restrain myself from choking him? We're always duking it out, fist fighting in the shop. My girlfriend's always yelling at us to stop fighting in the house and chasing the dogs, and we're always out in the woods doing bushcrafting and survival stuff. And so yeah, sometimes I want to choke him, but he's a good kid, you know. The next question from Neil Wolf: have you built a custom bike? And I assume you're talking Harley or whatever, but yeah, I not only have built custom choppers, I've actually built my own frames, gas tanks, fenders, handlebars, all that stuff. So yeah, I've built tons and tons of custom Harleys. I built a lot of Japanese motorcycles or metric bikes, whatever you want to call them. I've installed airbags on them and built custom frames, and taken them to, you know, the next level and done custom paint. I've done custom fiberglass, plastic, all kinds of good stuff. And English motorcycles like Triumphs, BSAs, Nortons. So yeah, I've built all kinds of custom bikes. And maybe one of these days I'll do a slideshow and show you some of the custom cars, custom bikes, custom knives that I've done. I was kind of thinking about that because I keep having some questions about that kind of stuff. And I might throw a slideshow together one of these days real soon. But I appreciate all the questions, Neil Wolf. Thank you. And I got to watch my time right here because I got some other stuff that I got to do too. So at 3 in the morning. Shiny Knife was the next question. What's your favorite Ford motor setup for a cruiser type hot rod? I would have to say it would be the 5.0 Mustang motor with a 5-speed behind it. It's one of my favorites, and I think I'm a Chevy guy, but I think if there's a badass Ford motor, it would have to be the 5.0 with a 5-speed. That's just awesome. And I had a chance to help a guy with a Mustang when I lived in Missouri, and it was a drag car that he drove on the street, and we used to take it to the car shows all the time. And we took that 5.0 out of that thing, and it had a 5-speed. And when we got done building that motor, it was insane. It'd pull the front wheels off the ground. It was nuts. That was a badass car. And you know, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the coolest motors on the planet for Ford, is the 5.0 with a 5-speed stuff behind it. Thanks, Shiny Knife. Appreciate it. The next one would be Joseph Russell. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a part 2 on my video, and I'll be right back.